Welcome everybody to this week's magnificent, beautiful, very prestigious community call. I need to learn some more adjectives. Anyways, welcome everybody. Hopefully everyone had a great week and is ready for a better weekend. Today I have with me a surprise guest who's Mikola, our ambassador manager. Say hi to the people.
Hi everyone. See some familiar faces.
And also in the meantime, Marc has jumped on stage. Hey Marc.
Hello Sue. Hello everyone.
Welcome. But before I get to introduce Marc to you guys, our lovely community, let's go through our usual news roundup. This is going to be a bit shorter and faster because we have quite a bit to discuss. Our dear node operators who here in this call, I can see them in the audience. So first, let's talk a little bit about what has been happening with NIM over the past 2 weeks. All right, so first of all, importantly, there's a Zili meme contest happening right now. So some instructions will be left in the chat. Make sure to join. And if you have some memes to share, then I believe this is the last day. So make sure not to miss it. And then the community will be voting for the best memes, and the voting period is the 23rd to the 30th of September. So make sure to participate in that as well. It is a pretty fun little thing. I'm seeing some pretty dank memes, to be completely honest. So you're still not late to win the contest. And then moving on very quickly to the biggest news item that happened. I'm actually skipping a few just for the sake of time. Biggest news item that happened over the past 2 weeks, which I keep talking about, is NIM Shipyard. So as you know, we're about to embark on one of the largest projects that we has ever embarked on, which is going to be a huge educational program, which is also fun and gamified for you guys. If you participated in last year's Shipyard Academy, this is going to be similar, but way bigger, way more fun, hopefully. So early bird submissions already started last week, and you can still get the early bird role in Discord. Generally, just join us at early bird before the 24th. I believe the deadline is the 24th night CET. So if you do want to be an early bird, then make sure to apply. Instructions will be shared in the chat and also links. And then let's not forget also our referral contest. So if you want to bring your friends, if you have a lot of friends, make sure to bring them, because there's a special prize pool for our referral campaign. You can win up to 10,000 NIM tokens. One important piece of information when it comes to the early bird contest is that an actual friend only counts if they finish at least stage 1 of Shipyard. So just bringing a friend is not going to be enough. So fine, all the actual participants count. And then probably a few of you are wondering, if you already participated in Shipyard, then Shipyard Academy last year, then whether you should or can and should participate in Shipyard as well. Definitely should. In fact, we have something very special cooking for our Shipyard OGs, your eyes peeled. And in general, just keep an eye on our channels for the coming few weeks, because Shipyard is upon us. We will be kickstarting the actual program on the 9th. And before that, leading up to it, quite a few are going to share more details. So make sure to keep your eyes on our Telegram and Discord channels. And since I have Mikola with me, I thought he could also give a quick update on the ambassador program, because there's been quite a bit going on that front as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to meet you here, and I see lots of Ninja cadets, ninjas on our call, which is super exciting. I think that this year, the end of the year, will be super big for everyone, from privacy advocates to developers. We have so many things under the hood that we will reveal to you, also on the product side. And what we want to do is, through the Shipyard especially, and through our ambassador program, to be ensured that people all around the world would really advocate for NIM without us micromanaging their activities. Like our program increased last week. There are almost 1K plus people enrolled to the program. So now we have around 2.5K people participating in our Zili cadet campaign, which is super cool, because generally speaking, from these people, we could select true ninjas, full-on ninjas who would become a real ambassadors of the NIM and who could represent us in different countries. We see a huge interest in local event delivery. So people from Vietnam to Nigeria are doing events all around the world. Smallish events, they explain people, they train people what's NIM all about, why you should care about privacy. Also, we are running a huge campaign to facilitate local use cases. So the next time you pitch NIM in India, for example, you use a local scenario that's really crucial for the local privacy market. Or when you pitch NIM in Mexico, you will mention journalists and their freedom of speech protection. So it's really good to see that we're not just working like solo by ambassadors, but generally speaking, we are covering the interesting geographies beyond just Europe. And for example, Ninja Ambassador Supermeia is promoting NIM through the Brazilian favelas, which is interesting angle, especially that could be linked to our VPN product, so available on a mobile in the future. At the same time, there are like high-grade privacy people, activists are coming around and they want to experiment with us. And it's really good to see a pretty diverse crowd within the ambassadors covering, starting from node operators in Ukraine, for example, or ending with the privacy researchers in India, which is cool to see. Have any personal questions to me regarding on the program?
No, actually, I know basically everything because we're working on it pretty closely. So,
okay, yeah. Let me add one more thing. So, the whole philosophy behind the program, what we are doing right now, because we all know that it's really hard to really grasp is, especially if you never used any private tools, if you never cared about your data privacy. So, Shipyard, in this sense, really like accelerating, speed up people onboarding into images. And in this sense, we are trying to link not just, let's say, crypto people who will be interested in the projects and tokens and stuff, but also people who are beyond Web3 and or beyond the privacy. So through thorough amounts of education, they could really understand how to help us. And my big role is to facilitate some sort of meaningful contribution towards our storytelling and our mission, because many people who are jumping into ambassador program and they do lots of ambassadors program at the same time, and sometimes they miss whole point of why privacy really matters, why data privacy is a sensitive topic, why they should care, how the future should look like. And in this sense, super thankful to lots of cadets and ninjas who are working hard to educate people, to review the tasks of the cadets, to shape their narratives, to fight with some sort of copycats when people are just automatically participates in ambassador program instead of bringing a nice, meaningful contribution. So in this sense, we want our ambassadors and cadets to be real NIM extensions, like a human mixnet, instead of just random avatars in that sense. And we bring a really good human aspect on how we want to scale both program in quality and quantity. And just shout out to everyone who could really show off the super skills. From, I don't know, I've seen the avatars from Cornichon, who is super helpful, and to Andre, who is helpful in shaping token storytelling and bringing it to people. And last but not least, CM Nick, who really has the substance to tell to the bigger crowd. And thanks node operators for understanding why Mixnet mission is.
And just a quick note on how closely the Ninja Ambassador program and Shipyard related. So, as Mikola mentioned, we're seeing a lot of help in promoting, getting people excited about Shipyard from our existing cadets. One of the important goals of Shipyard Stage 3, which is going to be the specialization stage, is to onboard people to the Ninja program. So I think that these two things go hand in hand and they kind of co-create each other.
Yeah, and I also want to add here that one of our big missions and the moment is to connect the old core community members and core contributor, the newcomers, because we truly believe that the elders of NIM could really share experience and knowledge how to contribute to NIM right way. And in this sense, they could kind of like help the others lead by example, because after the Shipyard, we will have thousands of people circulating around us, and they really need help to kind of understand where to go. Good example is how Daniel, our head of growth in Latam, takes care of onboarding our ninjas in Brazil and Mexico. So in this sense, they feel that they're part of a bigger team, and at the same time, they understand what specific activities will help us to succeed in a specific region. Like, it would be really hard to get many nodes in favelas because not many of them has proper notebooks, but those people could really use our VPN for specific activities. While on another market like India, it's super big in terms of developers market. As you could see, all these Polygon or Solana hackathons attract thousands of people. So we are experimenting with those events, specifically sending some ninjas there. I try to explore the use cases for privacy for the next networks, and in this sense, find out certain key to specific local market. And in this sense, the Shipyard is extremely helpful here. But at the same time, we think that soon we will consolidate a certain balance between newcomers, the ones who really want to contribute and stay with us, and the ones who already delivered so many solutions months or years. And a certain well-defined balance is a good success metric for nice community growth. And Sudo is taking a lead here.
Thanks for that update, Mikola. I think we should probably move on to our conversation with Marc now. Maybe a very quick note on why actually I'm here, and that's also tied to a PSA. So the NIM team is gathering in Spain, near Barcelona, for our yearly meeting. So all of the NIM team is coming together here. Means probably a bit less responsive team members. So if you have any projects going with us, then please bear with us, because this is the one and only time where the entire team comes together. We're a fully remote company, so it's a meet from time. That is happening next week, and I came a bit early to see this guy.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And after this annual meeting, we'll bring many great news that will be held during Shipyard or and after. Take care.
Over to you, Marc. How is it going? Hopefully that wasn't too long and boring.
No, all good. Can you hear me well?
Yes, loud and clear. It is amazing to have you on.
Thanks.
Before we get into our conversation about open exit nodes and Project Smoosh and all of that stuff, I would like to let our community know that this time around, as always, we're keeping an eye on the chat, and we're going to be answering questions. So whenever Marc or I say something that you would want to know more about, then please feel free to ask away. But I would also like to note that we're going to be focusing on node operator questions, specifically having to do with Project Smoosh, as this is a pretty big change for node operators. So we want to make sure that those. And on that note, before we get into Project Smoosh, I would like you to introduce yourself. How is it going?
Sure, yeah, all good. I joined NIM about 3 months ago as a lead product manager to take care of the product called NIM Connect, which is the B2C client that allows users to connect to the Mixnet and at some point in the future to a VPN that we have already announced. So far so good.
As the community probably knows, because we've been talking about it quite a bit and quite often, we are really gearing up for mass adoption. And, part of that is releasing NIM VPN. So you joined at a pretty critical moment to NIM. So how has that been? Were you dropped into deep water right away?
Yeah, it's quite technical. So I'm not coming from the world of Web3 or network. I'm coming more from like the fintech industry. So I used to work at Revolut, for example. So I'm more coming from the mainstream world and mainstream software. I'm trying to bring that expertise of bringing nice apps, nice UX and user growth to NIM. But yeah, so far so good. It's just been quite a wild ride, and getting to learn everything about Web3 and everything about network and cryptography and so on. So it's quite exciting.
It is exciting indeed. And I guess that kind of brings us right up to our main topic, which is going to be Project Smoosh. So maybe, I think before we do anything else, let's walk people through what this means and maybe why it's happening now and what it could mean for node operators.
Sure, even though I'm not the best person to talk about this project, which would be more for a technical person. So Project Smoosh is going to be about basically merging all the node operators' role into one binary, if I'm not mistaken. So the gateways, the exit nodes, entry nodes, and so on. What I'm more keen to talk about is an initiative that is connected to Project Smoosh, which is basically changing a bit the behavior we have for the exit gateways and turning that behavior from something where we have an allow list that is app-based to where we allow matrix and Telegram and a few other crypto apps to be accessed through the mixnet via a SOC/SWAT connection, and change that to more of a wider list that allows people to connect to any type of service or a website that they want through the mixnet. So again, Project Smoosh, high level, I can talk about it, but it's not my expertise and not what I'm currently working on. And then the second initiative, which is about opening exit nodes, this is something we can discuss and address concerns.
Yeah, I think, sorry for referring to it as Project Smoosh. In my mind, it's sort of one and the same or two sides of the same coin. But yeah, what's the point here basically is going from a whitelist model to a blacklist model, which is a pretty important change. So maybe let's talk about that change a little bit. So why is it necessary, and why is it necessary at this stage?
Again, you're back to the roots of the mission of NIM. So NIM wants to offer privacy for everyone and everywhere. And we believe that if we have a very limited app that only allows you to protect your privacy for very, very specific use cases, there are a few messaging apps and a few crypto apps, then we fail on our mission to offer privacy for everyone and everywhere. And we believe that to go there and to achieve that mission, we have to basically allow you to protect through the mixnet all your online use cases, or as many use cases as you want, as you feel comfortable with. So we believe that having this change is something very important for the end users. And we are aware that the node operators are also users of the service, and that there's technical, legal, operational concerns that have been raised. And we are definitely going to address them and work on them together with the community. But yeah, we believe that this is an important change for our end users. Definitely is.
And huge thanks for everyone who filled out our survey, which we put out about this change. And we also put out a document which summarizes, it's an evolving document, and an FAQ that we put out summarizes everything that should know about this change. So thumbing through the feedback that we got, maybe Salazar, can you please grab links to the doc and the FAQ that Sarinko recently put together. So thumbing through that feedback, my sense was that it's overall positive, but what people are concerned about is the legal aspect of this. So maybe I think you and I should talk a little bit about what operating an open, so what switching to the blacklist model from the whitelist model and operating something that is similar to a Tor exit node and functionality means, legally speaking.
Sure. So yeah, indeed, I haven't seen the latest results, but I've seen the temporary results with the part of the answers, and indeed, like, the legal concerns were basically the main concern that came up in the open feedback section, and then the technical and operational concerns were second. So yeah, just to maybe clarify before we go into the legal question, in terms of technical and operational setup, so indeed today we have an allow list that is an IP-based allow list where we say, okay, for Telegram, we basically whitelist or allow lists IP address A, B, and C, which correspond to Telegram services A, B, and C. And we have that basically for, I think there's like 20 or 30 IP addresses and that allow list. And we want to switch to a much more permissive model where basically people are allowed to connect to anything they want, provided that it's not like abuse material, that it's not spam, and so on and so forth. And what we'll likely have is not only a deny list, but more of a combination of them. So we will have probably an IP-based deny list where we say, okay, these IPs are known to be abusive, spam, whatever, and we block them. And we will have likely also an allow list for ports where you can say, okay, you allow traffic on HTTP, HTTPS, and this and that, FTP, SFTP, whatever you want. And then the rest of the ports can be blocked. So that is going to be like the likely combination of this. Now, talking about the legal side, like the legal and operational side of things. So the short answer is that we don't know exactly what it's going to take to do this because it's quite new. And the best we could offer is to say, look, or exit nodes is something that has been running for the last, 10 plus years. And there's like a lot of online evidence about what it means to run a Tor exit node and what is the legal framework and what are the potential issues you can run into by doing this yourself. And so this is what we have done in a document that has been shared by Sudo and the community team, which is, we don't know yet. We're seeking advice from our Swiss and US lawyers. But look at Tor, this is like looking at what has happened to Tor, this is the synthesis of like the key points you should be aware of. And these are the risks that are associated with running an exit node.
Maybe also we could talk a little bit about how, legally speaking, it might be different to run a NIM exit node versus a Tor exit node. There's the difference of hidden services. Tor has that, we don't. What does that mean, legally speaking?
To be honest, it's very much of an unknown. because our service is brand new. It's not as well known as Tor, and Tor has this aura of it's a nonprofit. It helps, journalists and activists and people out there. And so when people are, getting into like not trouble, but legal questions about, what is Tor, it's quite easy to explain in the sense that it's been out there for quite a while and it's a nonprofit and there's plenty of material available to support that. For NIM, it's going to be a bit harder to answer, like, what is it going to take? Because NIM is much less known. There's going to be also much less traffic than Tor, so potentially less risks. But still, it's a very open question so far.
Mm.
So what we want to do is like reuse as much as what Tor has developed and say, look, we have like a base that we provide to the community. We also want to set up the tools and the wikis and all the things so that the community can also create those things themselves. So for example, someone in Ukraine has mentioned that they want to rally potentially like local node operators in Ukraine to see like what could be the legal setup. I think like these type of initiatives are amazing when we can get the community to also help itself. And then we'll do as much as we can to support that.
I think maybe if we could expand a bit on those tools, because I know that a forum is coming where people can, you just mentioned that people can help each other. So why is that important?
So basically, so what we have today, so we have already the node operators channel on Matrix. I don't know if everybody has joined that or has access to that. But this is more of a chat. And what we want to have is also something a bit more stable, as in either a wiki or something on our FAQ. And why is it important is that, we had interviews with people running Tor exit nodes, and they say, one of the strengths of Tor is that they have like a very strong community. And basically, before you set up that exit node, you have access to plenty of material, but also access to plenty of people that have been running them for a long time. And so that may help you answer like lots of questions about the technicalities of it, the operational setup, potentially the legal framework around that. And this is something that has been mentioned as being super important. So people feel like they do something that may have some implication, but at least they're very well supported, not only by the main parent association, which is Tor, but also by the Tor community. And we want to have people like node operators have that same experience, that same feeling that they're surrounded and they're being, given advice.
And I guess it's also worth mentioning, this is no guarantee of anything, but looking back at the pretty long history of Tor, there's yet to be a case won against someone who operated a Tor exit node. So in some regions, it is restricted in one way or another, but we don't know of anything that actually happened to anyone who operated a Tor node. Is that correct?
Right. So far, the people that we have spoken with from Tor, they said nobody has been for running an exit node. But yes, there has been people that have been interrogated by the police, asked questions, being witness in some cases. So that is stuff that can happen, but what we're going to do is like give as meaningful advice as possible so that we minimize these type of situation, and that ultimately we have a great experience for the node operators that allows to have a great experience for the end users.
This will obviously evolve, and the knowledge base, as this change goes live and people start operating these nodes, the knowledge base will build itself basically. So it's up to us and our community to build that together. I think with that, unless you wanna add something to this topic, we can maybe move on to talk about incentives a little bit.
Sure.
Okay, so what will
so incentives is definitely a good point. So this is something that got raised also in the feedback from the community, which is in the end, I'm going to take more risks. So, in the risk reward perspective, what is it, what's in it for me as a node operator? And the answer is we don't know yet, but very likely it's kind of it's fair to assume that, if we encourage you to take more risks, there's probably going to be higher rewards for the people that turn on and opt in to run these exit nodes.
My understanding is that this is going to be the case, although incentives themselves won't change, but participation in the active set for, don't quote me on this though, I saw a message from Harry, which I'm going to look up, but my understanding is that participation in the active set of nodes, which do have the denylist enabled, will be higher. So that way, even though incentives themselves won't change structurally, functionally, people will get more rewards if they operate an open exit node.
Yeah. So again, the details have not been defined, but there is it's fair to assume that if you take more risk, you will get higher rewards.
We have a question from Kovacs. how about legal requirements for node operators? Sorry, but back to legals. I'm not sure we can answer this, but let's see if we can. So how about legal requirements for node operators? I think of logging and log retention policy. Already any insights on that?
The legal requirements, to be honest, we don't really know. So it's something that we're currently running with the Swiss and US lawyers. We don't expect that there's any requirements in the sense that you're not obliged by the law to do anything. So it's more that, if really bad. So the main legal risk that we have is that there's like some really bad traffic going through the exit node, and then somebody like the police or like a music major or somebody else says, okay, this is illicit traffic, and we have questions basically to the node operators like, what is this traffic? Where is it coming from? So I'm not sure that there's specific requirements to say, okay, you have to log this and that. It's more, you have to be ready to ensure that you're just like, in the end, some kind of telecommunication provider, that you're not responsible for the traffic that goes through you. You're only, passing data packets, but you're not responsible for this. But so bear with us. We're going to basically provide like some guidance for some of the main countries where we operate. And then for the rest, provide the tools so that the community can self-organize on that.
And then I guess the same is true for DMCA. The DMCA was the other thing that came up in the feedback as a question quite often. DMCA is digital. It's basically a content copyright management system, which makes sure that things are not pirated.
Yeah, exactly. So there is two main legal topics basically with running these exit nodes. So one, as you say, is the DMCA, which is high volume and low risk, which is basically you're going to get requests from these music companies or movie companies or whatever, or lawyers defending them, that they're going to tell you, hey, you have downloaded these and these music files or movies. And then the answer to that is that we're going to develop like some template, like pre-filled templates to say, yeah, this is not me downloading. It's like somebody downloading through my node, and I'm just a node operator, and I'm subject to these regulations, and basically it's not my fault. So, fuck off. So this is one thing, and that's going to be taken care of very easily. And the people that we have spoken with at Tor, they say, yeah, these are typically requests that you get, but it's very easy to kick them out. And then the second thing is going to be more like, okay, illicit content, drug abuse, and so on, where potentially this is more open-ended, and this is where like the actual trouble can happen. But the DMCA is definitely not a trouble. Something you have to handle, but it's not. There's nothing behind it.
Once again, I guess we can fall back on Tor. So it's not entirely true that what a NIM exit node operator will be doing is very unique and all brand new, because it's functionally very similar to Tor, right? So if we hear, for example, DMCA claims are very easy to handle with just standard response, that will also be true of NIM node operators, right?
Yeah, so DMCA, I think, is almost a non-topic. So yes, we need to be ready and provide like the templates and the autoresponder and so on. But legally, I think there's like very limited risk as long as operators act in good faith and answer to the requests. Yeah, the question where it's more open-ended is on the rest. Does Tor and the whole like non-profit and the Tor brand help you a bit more than than NIM would? NIM being like the new kid on the block that law enforcement doesn't know about. So that's the only question.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Another question from Kovacs. I don't know if you can answer this. Question is whether people who do operate open exit nodes get more rewards or people who don't get less rewards.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. Again, the details for the rewards have not been defined yet. I think the only thing I can say is, if we go and proceed with that change, the expected traffic that we're going to get is going to be 10x or 100x compared to what we have today, because it's not going to be limited to only like a few messaging and crypto apps, but it's going to be open to like everything. And we're going to have an explosion in traffic, meaning also, much better usage of the servers. And ideally, I mean, the revenues and ideally the profits for operators should increase a lot, even though potentially the increase per user even though the profit per user or profit per data packet might be slightly lower.
I'm still looking for that message from Harry, but I can't find it. So I'll just focus on the conversation instead. I think from here, unless there's anything burning or jumping out at you that you want to add here.
Nope,
Marc?
All good.
I think maybe we should talk a little bit about what happens from here. So we have been collecting feedback. That feedback has been besides these few things that we just talked through, mainly legal, so concerns are mainly legal, maybe what will happen from here is what we should talk about. So what's the timeline? Is this change finalized? Is it definitely happening? Will people to be able to opt out, or is it or they can't? So let's talk about the timeline from here.
Yeah, so currently this is still an initiative that is not going through. It's more of a project where we want to assess, appetite from the community, understand the technicalities of it, understand the legal risks, and we're waiting for the feedback from the lawyers to see, is this something that we can go with or not. Again, we hope, or I hope, that this is something that we can proceed with, because for me, the end value that users get out of this and the overall value of the NIM service is quite dependent on this. And the more use cases you can cover with the mixnet, the better. So for now, again, it's more of a research project, but at least personally, I hope that this will go through. Yeah. And then the second part of your question was?
Timeline.
Yeah, hard to say, to be honest. There's lots of things going on. The two main ones being this VPN thing that we have mentioned, and the update of the app, where we have to accommodate the app for combining both the VPN and the mixnet. Yeah, and only then. So this is more of a backend type of change, more of a core network change, and this is something I'm less involved in from a technical perspective. So I'm gonna not answer on this one.
Because this also has to do with Project Smoosh, right? My understanding, and also we're neither of us are in the technical teams, guys, so please bear with us. But my understanding is that first, network requesters and gateways are going to be smooshed together. That's stage one, and then following that, gateways and mixed nodes will be smooshed together, if that's what you mean. I'm not sure with the exact dates on any of this, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, and so for this whole initiative of, so you're correct on Project Smoosh, and on this whole initiative about exit nodes, like technically the changes are quite minimal if we were to proceed with this, because it would be only to, switch from basically from an allow list to a deny list. So this is a very small change to do. I think the bigger change that would have to be done is if we proceed with this and have to change the reward structure, for example. This is more of an unknown. I have no clue about the changes that are required there. And, potentially there's maybe some more things that have to be developed. So once feedback from Tor, for example, was as a node operator, if I have this exit node, I can analyze basically what's going on through it via a tool called Nix, not to be confused with the NIM's Nix. And that basically allows to manage what's going on with the node, the quality of the service, maybe have some rate limiting for certain users and so on. And so we have to see, are these things that we want to offer also from the beginning? Is there something that, helps provide a good quality of service? So all of these questions have not been answered. So that's why it's a bit hard to provide like a definitive answer on a potential timeline.
By the way, just sorry for the unrelated comment, but I found the message from Harry, and what he says, maybe it's not as final as it sounds from his message, but he said this: APY won't evolve per se. It's just the chance of being selected when not running a gateway will go down considerably. This doesn't mean real APY will go down, likely as there will be epochs when someone will be just running a mixed node and not be selected for the active set. That's what it looks like it's going to be. And then the question I wanted to ask you, Marc, what if it's not happening? How do we achieve something similar in terms of the mixnet being general purpose, being accessible for everyone, or for many purposes, just like similar to VPN?
Yeah. So if it's not happening or not in this form, then it's a good question. So then we have to go back to the drawing board. One option would be to say, look, anyway, the mixnet is not something that you're going to use to watch Netflix or do like basic browsing for that, unless you're like a really privacy concerned person. But for that, you're probably going to use a 2-hop VPN. That's going to be like 2-hop WireGuard VPN with him. That's going to be enough. And most likely you're going to limit the mixnets to specific use cases where speed and latency do not matter as much, but where privacy is super important, like messaging app, crypto apps that we have mentioned, and many other use cases. But it means that at least the set of apps that we will allow will have to be much bigger. And for this, we will probably have to rely on the community to say, okay, messaging app, so today we support like 3 or 4, but we want to support like 20 or 50. And It means that for each of them, we'll have to keep an up-to-date list of what are the apps that we officially support, what are the IP addresses that we have to whitelist for us to support that. And, keeping that relevant and up-to-date and functioning and, not having like bad traffic is going to take like a big effort. And I'm not sure, again, that NIM as a company can do that, but we'll have to rely on the community to support us. That's the plan B.
Yeah, so then there will be a colossal community contribution to maintain such a list, especially if we want something approximating general purpose functionality.
Never going to be the general purpose because there's always going to be things that are not going to work. So the assumption is more we will define use cases that we believe are important and can be solved by can be again like crypto and messaging and productivity and maybe a few others, but definitely not streaming or video gaming or other like high speed, low latency use cases. And then for each of these use cases, we're going to have to say, okay, we want these apps and these services to be allowed. But again, it's like a huge effort because like there's like thousands of these apps and services.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, wait, I think we have community questions. I'm not sure whether either of us can answer this from Nick. He's asking, will Smoosh require mixed node runners to change servers? Or will it need more resources or bandwidth?
So the Smoosh itself, I don't know again. But then for this new thing with the exit nodes, the assumption is that it will probably increase a lot the resources and bandwidth because by making that change, the service is going to be much more compelling and you're going to be able to do much more stuff through the mixnet. And we expect that both the traffic per user is going to increase a lot, but also just the plain number of users is going to also increase a lot because it's a much more usable product.
Thanks for that answer. My understanding also is that already, if I'm not mistaken, running a gateway is more resource intensive than just a mixed node. So if you smoosh those together, then the end result, even at the current kind of low usage mixnet, which is not being used a lot, so there's not a lot of stuff to mix and process, it would require more resources. And then if you scale it up and if you onboard millions of users, then probably gateways will be a bit more resource intensive accordingly. A very important question coming up, Marc. Who's entitled, this is also from Kovacs, the great questions, by the way, Kovacs, appreciate it. So who's entitled to edit, maintain the deny list? Will the node operators be able to overrule your central deny list? I think this is very important stuff. Do we know?
It's been discussed, it's not final yet. There's two options. So there's the option that's nice for operators and there is the option that's nice for users and easy for them. The option that is nice for operators is to say, every operator gets to basically start from like a main list that is defined by the community, and then they can tweak that and say, okay, I allow or deny more or less services, ports, IPs based on my level of comfort and based on the country where I operate, which for the node operator is obviously like the ideal scenario. The downside with that is that there's a risk that users, depending on the gateway that they get assigned to for a given epoch, they may sometimes get access to a service or not, depending on the settings that have been made by the node operator. So that's why we would encourage node operators to stick to something quite standard so that the experience for end users is consistent across epochs. And option B is to say we force the list to be the same on everybody all the time, which means that technically it's very simple, that users always have the same consistent experience. But then the risk is that, if I operate in a country where certain services or certain ports will get me into trouble, then that's bad for me as a node operator. And ultimately, it will also degrade the service because we'll have less exit nodes. So we have to find a balance. Probably it's going to go towards letting the operator customize a bit the list, but we have to be aware of the technical consequences and probably encourage people to stay as standard as possible.
Just to spell it out, if node operators can configure their own list, that would mean that depending on the node you're connected to as an end user, you would be maybe able to do something and maybe not.
Exactly.
And is there any way to solve that, by the way, just theoretically? It sounds like a very complex problem to solve, but would there be any way to solve it?
No, a way would be to say, and again, then it gets complex, but it would be to say, okay, this, when user gets request decline, then we can detect that actually it's due to customization made by the exit gateways, and then we basically route you to another gateway that has this request allowed. But yeah, it would require like probably a lot of effort. And then in terms of usage for the end user, this would look like, okay, I'm requesting the service and it takes, not hard milliseconds, but a second maybe to get to that because I have to change the exit gateway and so on. So it's a bit messy. I don't know. We have to find the solution for that.
Yeah, sounds like an interesting problem to solve. Maybe if you know, and I know I'm asking some stuff that may not be very clear yet at this point, but if you had to bet, by when will this decision be made and when can we inform the community, whether we're going to go with it or not?
So this is still something that's being designed. We have to go through the results of the survey to see, okay, do we, have a sentiment that going with this with the denylist thing is preferred, or do we have the feeling that we should stick to more of a service-based allow list based on the comfort of the operators and the experience for end users? And then for each of these, then we have to go deeper into the options, like what it means, like what happens when operators get the possibility to customize the list, for example, what's the impact on end usage, and we have to strike the balance where basically we minimize unsatisfaction.
That makes sense. I mean, maybe if these are the options, once those options are clear, we could put up a vote in our node operating community, because right now it's a bit nebulous. We only asked about one of the options basically and gathered feedback on that. We could also put up a vote, which one scenario should happen, or which one would people prefer.
So for that, let us come back with more bullets on these two items. On the two models, what are the implications? I think the model with the allow list is much more straightforward. The only concern is, how do we make sure that together with the community, we have a list of apps and services that is maintained over time, that is consistent and useful for everyone, and that still has a lot of value for end users. But I think this is something quite straightforward as compared to opening exit nodes, which has actual legal consequences, which is something it's much more research.
Okay, well, I think that brings us to end of my questions, at least, and I don't see any from the community either. Kovacs is saying, we're very surprised by the level of centralized governance censorship you're introducing here. Let's maybe address that.
So yeah, I don't know if that person can intervene or not, but yeah, I'd love to have some clarity on the question. So what is actually meant there?
Well, just the fact that what we described is not a decentralized model, right? So it's more of a centralized model, both in terms of decision making and the end result. I would say, right, Kovacs, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So, so denylist is censorship. Yeah, that's what he means.
Okay, then I don't understand the point. I mean, because if we say basically we have two models we can go for, like we have the current model, which let's say it's called the allow list model, where we say, okay, these and these IPs, these apps, these services are allowed, and that's it. And the other model is more of the denylist model, where we say, okay, these IPs, ports, and things are known to be abusive, spammy, whatever. And we deny them together as a community because we said this is typically bad traffic that we don't want to have within them. So these are the two main models, right? Where I don't get why the denylist model would be associated with censorship.
Technically, that's right, because you deny stuff, which means that you censor it. But also maybe let's talk a little bit about something that we didn't touch on, Marc, so far, is what list we're planning to use. So it's not, like an arbitrary list of things that we want to ban because we don't like them, but it's like an existing list of malicious stuff. I forget the name.
Okay, and read the comment, like who can decide what's bad or good? Yeah, but then that's fine. I think what we can do, I mean, again, it's not meant to be, if we say in the end we allow the node operator to customize that list, you can go with like a completely open allow list and leave with it to say I'm not censoring anything, like not censoring like spam and so on. And then you have to leave with the consequences. I think what NIM wants to offer in this all is to say, okay, together with the community, we have defined a list that allows a good experience for end user and allows a good experience for node operators. And then, you can decide to remove items from the list. You can decide to add more if you feel less comfortable. And that's it. So the list is more meant to be a baseline, but not meant to be, this is what NIM or what the NIM community thinks is good or bad. And again, it's not for us to judge what the end user should access. It's also about, if a node operator goes to jail and then suddenly all the node operators turn off their nodes, then NIM doesn't exist anymore. So we have to find that balance.
But what was the name of that list that already exists? It's Tornol, is that the name of it?
Yeah, so there's at least two things that we are aware of. There's probably many more. Tor has what they call exit policies which are port-based allow lists, where they say, okay, we allow HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, SFTP, etc. And then there's Tornel, which is an IP-based deny list, where we say, okay, we deny these and these IP addresses because they're known to be spammy addresses. Potentially, we'll have a combination of both. Yeah, again, it's not well defined. It's more something that we have explored. We say, okay, we know what Tor does, and then we'll have to make our own version of that.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of the questions. Any closing remarks, Marc?
No, I mean, thanks for the good time here. Thanks for all the questions. I understand the concerns. Just keep in mind that it's we have to strike the balance, between the end user's experience, which is I want to be private and I want to protect my privacy as I use connected services, which can be potentially anything, all my connected life. And then there's the node operator's experience, which is ultimately we don't want any of them to end up in a police station or in jail because of them running an exit node. And ultimately the balance has to be in between the two, and we want them to be as open as possible so that we have as many users as possible, and so that we can increase the revenues for everyone. But at the same time, we don't want to end up with legal trouble, both for individuals, but also for the reputation.
Closing thoughts. Let's keep the conversation going, folks. So it's obviously, as you heard, it's very much a work in progress and nothing has been decided yet. So we'll make sure to keep you posted on what's happening internally and what all of this stuff will end up bringing for you in terms of changes and timelines and all of that as that becomes relevant. And then maybe, Marc, next time around, we can do a proper intro of you. We kind of rush through the intro. And normally when someone joins, it's kind of a bit of a tradition that I bring them on the community call and them to the community. Sorry for not doing that with you properly.
Yeah, no problem. If you want to know more about myself, we can prepare that together and then introduce that to community.
All right. Well, folks, on that note, I would like to wish everybody a very lovely weekend. The call was recorded, so it will be at some point uploaded to our YouTube channel. I would urge everybody to keep the conversation going on our Matrix server. Yeah, most of you I know are already on it, but those who aren't, this is the place for serious conversations. Oh, yeah, and I almost forgot. Our beautiful Pizza J created a PO-up for this event, so if you want to claim that, then read the instructions in chat. We'll need to DM him and claim your PO-up. Big thanks for joining. Big thanks for coming on, Marc, and taking the time. Hopefully you had a bit of fun.
Yes, thanks, Sudo, and hope to get that clarified very soon and get to a nice initiative together with the community.
Amen. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.